Hey, it's Andrew Picha here, drummer of the Andy Needham Band. I wanted to take a moment and share a little bit about how I run loops with the band during worship sets and concerts. So there's lots of ways you can go about playing your loops. For us, it's more of a streamlined, simpler process because we like to keep stuff really self-contained with as few moving parts as necessary. And also because we usually travel without a sound engineer, we need stuff to be as simple as possible when running live sound. So for that reason, the rig that I have, instead of sending out multiple actual instruments, software instruments like a synth on one channel, percussion on another, guitars on another, what I do is everything back in my studio. I'll record the backing track, I'll create it in Reason and Ableton, I'll create it and then I'll export it and line it up with the metronome to be a stereo track so that everything is pre-mixed on the stereo track, and I just send that out from my rig. That way there's less, like I said, less things to mix, and it's already pre-mixed so that ideally on the board all we have to do is bring up this stereo fader, two faders, and it's just matching the level. I also do compression and some mastering techniques to make sure that all the backing tracks are a good volume and can be, for the most part, set and forgotten about during the show. And so what I do is I have a makeshift little rack case here. It's a 2-space rack. On the bottom space, I have a drawer in which I keep like my power supply, the firewire cable that hooks my interface to my computer, and I also have a foot switch right here. It's called the Cicada Page Flip. It's actually a Bluetooth pedal that was created for concert string players, so that if they had the sheet music on iPads, while they're playing, all they have to do is hit the foot switch and it would change the page of their music. The cool thing about it, though, is that it latches to keyboard commands, and so it's got 5 settings that it can be set to, like page up, left, right, left click, right click, and the last one is spacebar and enter. And in Ableton Live, if you've ever used it to trigger loops, spacebar and enter are basically the only 2 functions you need to trigger a loop and to stop it. And so in Ableton, when I hit the right switch, it hits enter, which plays the first track or the first song, automatically rearms the one after it so that if I were to hit enter again, Ableton would play the next song in the loop. And then the left pedal is spacebar so that if something goes wrong or if we're done, I hit that and it stops the session and no more audio is coming out. And it's Bluetooth and it's small and it fits right in this drawer, so it's really self-contained and a huge asset to have when we do our live shows. And then the rest of my rig is kind of MacGyvered a little bit because the interface I use is an MBox 2 Pro, but it's an older version that wasn't built with a rack mountable system. And so to make it fit and to make it work, I had to do a little bit of, get a little creative. So what you see here is I have my MBox 2 Pro, which has several outputs, and I believe, I should know this, but I believe it has up to 8 outputs on the back of it. We, with the band, only need 3. Like I said, we have the stereo tracks that are coming out left and right, and then the cues and the click on the third one, so we only need 3 outputs. And so I got some Velcro, some really heavy-duty Velcro stripping, and I just put that on top of the rack, the drawer, and Velcro this the MBox 2 right to it, so it's sitting in there. And then I have 3 DIs that 3 DIs here that are each Velcro down on top of the drawer as well. And so you'll see that XLR outputs are all facing out. So that way all the internal plugs, 1/4-inch cables that are going on, are inside the rack case. And so they can be plugged in, and I know that they're secure because there's nothing moving around in there and they're protected by the case. So even in the trailer, nothing's going to be able to get in because I have covers obviously on either side of this. And so if you were to look inside the rack space, you would see the back of the MBox, which has the FireWire cable that I take out. I usually put my computer right on top, plug the FireWire in, and that's what sends the audio from my computer into the MBox. and then I custom made some little short 1/4-inch jumper cables, and so they're only about 6 inches long, maybe, if not less, that jump from the DI into the outputs of the M box. So the audio is coming into the M box from my computer. In Ableton, I assign the outputs so that in our situation, outputs 1 and 2 are left and right, and you'll see I actually have these labeled so that if someone else is hooking up the audio, it's really straightforward. That this DI box is labeled track left. This is track right, so 1 goes to left, output 1, output 2 goes to right, and output 3 goes to this guy, which is click. And so when we roll into a church or wherever we're playing, I throw this up next to my drum set, usually right next to the hi-hat, throw my computer on, firewire, and then if I'm setting up, or anyone, all they have to do is come with 3 XLR cables, and it's labeled right there, so they jump right out of the DI into the snake, and it's as simple as that. I pull out my pedal, throw it next to my bass drum, and I open up my session, and we're good to go. So with all the pre-mixing done in Ableton, there's nothing really I need to do once we roll in. So the way I do loops is that I create them in Ableton Live, and I normally rewire Reason with it. So that means I'm using Reason and Ableton, so I get the kind of the best of both worlds in terms of software instruments that I'm using. And so usually I'll create those based off songs that we want to do for a set list. And then once I'm done, I upload them to a website called loopcommunity.com. And this is a new, fairly new website. It's been around for a little over a year, I believe. And I have a profile on there. And so once I'm done, I upload my whole session onto this site. And it's a really cool site because it's completely user-based. So people like me, guys that are creating loops for their worship bands, are posting their songs up here. And so if there's a song that we want to play with the band and I don't have the time, or that's usually the case, if I don't have the time to make a loop for it, I can look in the database to see if someone else has created a loop that could work for the arrangement we do. And then you have choices when you buy it, if you want just the WAV file to do a stereo track, or if you want to get the actual full session, if you want to get a little more in there and start messing stuff around, which is usually what I'll do just to make it work perfectly for what we're doing. So all my loops that I create are on there. Once again, that's loopcommunity.com, and you can find my profile under the contributors page. And my name is Andrew Picha, of course, and you can see all the loops I've created that we use. And one cool thing that just happened recently in the past month is that we've partnered with Loop Community, and we actually put our album's multi-tracks online on the site. So now if you want to play Refuge off the new Andy Needham Band album, you can go to loopcommunity.com, and for crazy affordable, for $10 you can get a stereo track of Refuge. This isn't like a arrangement of a Refuge or a redo of Refuge. It is the audio off the album that we have uploaded, except for the lead vocal. And so you have everything you could ever need. So honestly, you could almost just have a vocalist press play and they'll sing along, and it will sound like our album version of Refuge. And if you want, you can also get the multi-track stems, so that if you like the arrangement but you don't need the guitars or whatever, you can just mute those and play with that backing track. So our whole album is up there now on loopcommunity.com under the on artist page. If you go to Artist Loops and Andy Needham Band, and you'll see the whole album up there. And you can use those in your worship sets or on Sunday morning really easily. So yeah, that's how I use loops, and that's how we do it when we roll into church or an event. It's really simple, streamlined, and it works for us. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you at the show.